Here's a detailed 900-word story based on the title. He waited alone on Christmas, then a stranger stepped off the train. The snow fell softly on the small, nearly deserted train station. Its flakes drifted lazily through the pale winter sunlight, dusting the platform and the tracks in a glittering white blanket. John Carter stood alone, his hands buried deep in the pockets of his thick wool coat, shivering despite the scarf wrapped tightly around his neck. The holiday season had never felt lonelier, and this year, for reasons he couldn't fully explain, it hurt more than ever. Christmas had always been a time for family, for warmth and laughter. But this year, the echoes of empty rooms and unanswered phone calls followed him like shadows. His wife, Helen, had passed away the previous winter, and his children, grown and living far away, couldn't make the journey to see him. The train station, usually bustling with travelers and holiday reunions, was quiet except for the occasional clatter of a departing train or the distant bark of a dog in the snowy streets beyond. John sighed, staring down the tracks, feeling the ache of loneliness settle deeper into his chest. He had convinced himself to come to the station that day simply to feel connected to the world, to watch people come together while he remained, for the first time, utterly alone. The cold bit at his ears, his fingers turning numb, but he didn't move. His eyes scanned every passing shadow, every carriage that rumbled into view, hoping against hope that someone, anyone, might break the heavy silence that enveloped him. Hours seemed to stretch endlessly, and the station clock ticked with deliberate slowness. The few people who had passed him earlier had been wrapped in their own festive hurry, laden with packages and bundles of holiday joy. Not one had stopped, not one had looked his way. The loneliness was suffocating, yet there was something stubborn about John, something that made him stand firm, even as the cold numbed his body and the wind whipped snow into his face. As the sun dipped lower, casting a golden hue across the icy platform, John heard the faint rumble of an approaching train. His heart stirred, a fragile glimmer of anticipation flickering within him. Perhaps someone was coming. Perhaps the warmth of human connection was just around the bend. He adjusted his scarf and straightened his coat, trying to appear steady, though his hands still trembled from cold and anxiety. The train slowed, the brakes hissing as it came to a gentle stop before the platform. Steam rose from the engine, mingling with the soft snowfall, creating an almost ethereal scene. John watched as the doors began to open, one by one. Families embraced, children laughed, and holiday cheer spilled into the station, filling it with life and color. His chest tightened with both longing and melancholy. Each happy reunion reminded him of what he had lost, and yet, he couldn't turn away. Then, among the crowd, he noticed a figure unlike the others. A man stepped off the train, carrying nothing but a worn leather bag and a quiet air of solitude. He moved with purpose, yet there was a gentle hesitancy in his step, as though he, too, had felt the weight of being alone during the holidays. Their eyes met across the platform, and John felt a spark of recognition, not of knowing him, but of understanding him. The stranger approached, his boots crunching on the snow-covered platform. "Merry Christmas," he said, his voice warm, carrying a soft accent that hinted at distant travels. John blinked, surprised by the simple act of kindness. It was such a small gesture, yet it struck him profoundly, as if someone had thrown a lifeline across the frozen expanse of his solitude. "Merry Christmas," John replied, his voice rough, unused to conversation in so long. The stranger smiled gently and shifted the bag on his shoulder. "Mind if I sit here for a moment? The station feels quieter than I expected." He gestured toward a bench nearby. John nodded, motioning to the seat beside him. They sat in silence for a while, watching the flurry of passengers disappear into the cold evening, each lost in their own world. The stranger, whose name John would soon learn was Peter, seemed to radiate a calm, comforting presence, as though he carried warmth wherever he went. Finally, Peter spoke, breaking the silence with a casual curiosity. "Do you come here often on Christmas?" he asked, his tone gentle. John chuckled softly, a sound that surprised even him. "Not usually. But this year, I guess I needed to feel something other than my own company." His words hung in the air, raw and unpolished. Peter nodded, understanding more than John expected. "I know that feeling. I've been traveling for months, and this station, it reminded me of home, even if only for a few moments. There's something about being surrounded by people, even strangers, that keeps loneliness at bay." Hours passed like minutes as they shared stories, about families, lost loves, distant places, and moments of joy. John found himself laughing, genuinely, for the first time in months. The snow continued to fall, blanketing the station in quiet serenity, yet inside the small bubble of their shared conversation, warmth grew. As the evening deepened, the station lights flickered to life, casting a golden glow over the snow and ice. John looked at Peter, gratitude welling up inside him. "I didn't expect to spend Christmas like this," he admitted. "But I'm glad I did." Peter smiled, a quiet understanding in his eyes. Sometimes, the universe sends strangers when we need them most. Maybe that's its way of reminding us we're never truly alone. The train would leave again soon, and Peter would continue his journey. But in that fleeting Christmas encounter, John realized something profound. Even in the depths of loneliness, human connection could appear unexpectedly, like a spark in the snow, igniting hope and warmth where he thought there was none. When the time came for Peter to board his next train, they shook hands, their eyes locking in a silent acknowledgement of the bond they had shared. John watched as the train carried the stranger away, leaving the station once more quiet, yet no longer empty. He stayed a while longer, gazing at the tracks, feeling the snow settle softly around him. The ache of loss was still there, but now it was accompanied by a glimmer of hope. The Christmas that had begun in solitude ended with the simple reminder that even strangers could bring light into the darkest of nights. As he finally walked home through the softly falling snow, John smiled. The world, vast and unpredictable, had given him an unexpected gift at Christmas, a stranger's kindness, a fleeting moment of connection, and a renewed sense that he wasn't truly alone. Word count: 905. If you want, I can also make 5 image prompts based on this story for illustrations or AI-generated images to match the scenes. It would be perfect for a YouTube video visual sequence. Do you want me to do that next?